All right, so I want to make you a quick little video here on how to use a credit card calculator. So tomorrow there'll be a worksheet down here that basically breaks it down for you, but I'm going to click the link, and Bankrate.com has a ton of good calculators. We're going to do mortgage ones, loans, you have student loans, personal loans, auto loans, so all different types of cool calculators here. But we're going to use the credit card calculator. So here's how it works. Basically, you enter a balance. So let's say that you get an apartment and you open a credit card, and let's say that you have a $2,000 limit and you want to buy furniture, a TV, maybe some appliances for your kitchen, which $2,000 probably won't go very far. But let's say you put $2,000 on your credit card, and the statistics say for people that are just getting into credit and don't really have any credit yet, the first card is probably going to be in the neighborhood of 15% interest. Now, there's something interesting. You know, you could pay the full $2,000 off at the end of the month if you wanted to, which, you know, if you had $2,000, you'd probably just pay it in cash and not mess with the credit card. So most people are using the credit card because they don't have $2,000, but they can't afford a monthly payment to pay it off. So typically credit card companies, they have a minimum payment, and it's usually 1% of your balance plus the interest. And so that, for this, if I hit calculate, it's going to be $45. So if I borrow $2,000 and I go in and I charge up all my furniture and all my stuff and my balance is $2,000, they're going to send me a bill and say I need to pay $45, which was 1% of this plus the interest. Well, if you do that, if you only pay the $45 the first month, it's going to take you 175 months, which works out to be, divided by 12, 14 and a half years. It's going to take you 14 and a half years, and the interest, the money that the credit card company is going to make, is $1,979. So you're going to be paying back your balance. This is called the principal. You're going to pay back the $2,000 you borrowed, plus you're going to give them $1,900, so almost another $2,000. So your furniture basically costs $4,000 instead of $2,000. Another interesting thing to know about this minimum payment is it's going to change. It's actually going to drop each month. So when you hit show the payment schedule, because it's only 1% of what you owe, the first month you're going to give them $25 in interest. You're only going to pay $20 off the loan. So even though you paid $45, you still owe them $19.80. It only got reduced, your tab, by $20. Well, then the next month, since your tab is a little bit lower, 1% of that plus interest is going to be a little bit lower. So you can see, like, at the end of 1 year, you're down to only paying $40 a month, and then 30s, and then 20s, and then all of these months later, eventually, you're down to $15, because that's the minimum amount that credit cards let you pay, is $15. Now, let's compare that. Let's say that you don't want to just pay the minimum payment, but let's say that you could afford $50. So you're going to do a fixed payment, meaning you're going to pay the same amount every month, but you're going to give them $50. So I want you to see the difference. Instead of taking, 14 and a half years and paying all this interest, if you could just afford $5 extra a month and pay that every single month, I'm going to hit calculate. Now we're down to only 56 months. So now you're down to what is that? You're under 5 years. You're like between 4 and 5 years to pay it off. And now it's costing you only $789 in interest instead of almost $2,000 in interest. So that little dinky change of paying $5 extra a month makes a huge difference. You're paying a lot less than if you had to pay the interest. And look at the time, 175 months. Holy smokes. That's years and years and years. Now, let's say you could afford, I don't know, maybe $60 a month. If you could afford $60 a month, calculate it. Now you're going to have it paid off in under 4 years, and you're only going to pay $600 in interest. So this is a huge difference, and a lot of people don't understand that just that little $10 or $15 extra a month would make a really, really big deal. I mean, if you could pay $100 a month, now you're down to having it paid off in 2 years, and you're only giving the credit card company $300, which is way different than this. The problem is most people don't understand. They just pay whatever the bill tells them to pay, which is the minimum payment, and they get stuck in this trap. The credit card company wants you to be owing them money for a long period of time. That's how they become very wealthy. All right. Now, if I give you another scenario, they say that the average, let's just look it up. I'm going to look up average U.S. person's credit card debt. So the average credit card debt in the U.S. family is $6,270. All right, so let's go back and let's change this to $6,270 and just see what the average person is dealing with here. So the average American has a minimum payment of $141. And a lot of people, they're kind of maxed out on their credit cards. They've put a lot of things on their credit cards, and they can only afford the monthly payment. When you look at their job and what they make and what their bills are, this is literally all they can afford. And if that's the case, when I calculate this, they're going to be paying this credit card $289 divided by 12. They would be paying on this credit card 24 years. And the interest that they pay is more than what they actually even owe right now. So that's astounding. And unfortunately, this is the way that most Americans, they've got credit and they've bought things that they can't afford, and they literally can't make anything more than the monthly payment. But if they could, if they cut back on a few things or quit smoking or did something like that, if you looked at an extra, if they could just pay a fixed payment of, let's say, $200 a month, if they could find a way to get $60 a month, quit going to McDonald's so often or not drinking as much or whatever, $200, now they're going to pay it off in a little over 3 years. So instead of taking 24 years, they could pay it off between 3 and 4. And look at the interest that they're only going to pay that much money. They're going to save over $5,000 in interest. Instead of paying $141, pay $200. So you really have to make some choices and sacrifice and find a payment. This thing is really nice though, because if you do happen to get a credit card, which you should, because you need a credit card, it actually makes your credit score better. You saw that in the video. That if you're like, hey, I want to have something paid off in 2 years, what you could do is you could start playing with numbers here until you see this change to 24 months. So let's say, well, what if I pay $300? Got to hit calculate. That's almost 2 years, 25 months. Maybe I'll go 310. Calculate. So right there, if I could pay $310 a month, I'll have it paid off in 2 years and I would be debt-free on this credit card. The big thing is I want you to understand that these calculators exist. You could take control of your financial situation, and hopefully over time, my credit cards are way better than 15%. If you could get credit cards down to like 4 or 5%, which some of them have, now your minimum payment is going to be completely different. Instead of $141, if you can get a better interest rate, this is now $88. Let's say I pay $100 a month. All right, much different numbers with paying a lot less if you can get a better interest rate. So better score gives you a better interest rate. Moral of the story is never make the minimum payment, always pay more. Hopefully this will help you out. See you.